trillion naira. Also this week, Gumi tells President Tinubu to negotiate with bandits, offers to mediate. And later on the show, northern governors meet with NSA, agree on kinetic and non-kinetic options to tackle kidnapping. All the details in a moment. Stay with us. Well, feathers were ruffled this week in the Nigerian Senate. The lawmaker representing Bauchi Central, Ningi, was suspended for 3 months after about 3 hours of debate over his interview in which he alleged that the National Assembly padded the 2024 28.7 trillion naira budget. The Senate also warned Senator Suleiman Kapo, NMPP Kano South, against sharing and distributing disturbing news about the Senate. He noted that he discovered 3 trillion naira was inserted into the budget for projects without locations. He added that this is the highest budget padding that happened in Nigerian history under Senator Akpobio's watch. I have joining me now to discuss this Aken Fatunke, CEO, chronicler and associate mediator, communication consultant. He is in the studio with me. Good evening and welcome to the show, Mr. Aken.
Good evening, Jacinta. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much. Good evening, Nigerians.
All right, let's get your perspective on the Senate's decision to suspend Senator Ningi over 3 months and as well over the unconfirmed report.
Yeah, unconfirmed.
Claim, yes.
Unconfirmed according to the Senate's perspective. It becomes really confirmed by the spate of unpalatable, salacious tales that are coming from that same Senate. You know, when you turn yourself into a coven of some sort, what you allow it, the rumor mills to go into being. So in the first place, I have it as a wiper. The first wiper that goes to the left tells me that within the Senate rules itself, Senator Ningi been there for 17 years, and so if there is any padding allegedly, and we have reasons to believe that insertion of projects by this Senate especially, and the previous Senates before it, has been a commonplace. At what point in time did he realize this? When the appropriation went for the first reading, second reading, okay, all right. So suddenly something is just not tying, and then you just have to spill the beans. And in spilling that beans, you actually went out and got a private investigator. It's like wanting to investigate yourself in a manner of saying Ali Baba and the 40 thieves. So one of the 40 thieves now decides that both Ali Baba himself and elsewhere, things are not moving on fine. Is it really to say that it's unsubstantiated? We know what the president submitted, and we know the addition, some 2.1, some people say 3.1 trillion naira that the Senate decided that they were going to put in there in 2023 in the run to the appropriation acts itself. There were debates and they were vehement that they needed to do what you call constituency projects, which in itself, one, the former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, retired General Obasanjo, called a way of slicing Nigerians and called them unprintable names. It's also on records that a ranking senator in the 8th Assembly had a way, allegedly, of going around MDAs and departments of state to go tell their DGs, please, when you come to the Senate, ask for this, ask for that. And then this particular senator now then goes round after the approval and appropriation to submit the names of his companies to execute these projects. So who is fooling whom at the end of the day? My overall, therefore, is to say that the budget process, yes, improved substantially to get us line items, but it comes to a point after that has been submitted by the executives, then the Senate now then comes and then slam in their own. Doesn't look too neat in my perspective. And even if there is a need that what we are doing is a cut and paste the American system, that, okay, yeah, you've got to be able to show some things for yourself. I have seen latrines. I have seen boreholes. I have seen situations where, and this cuts across, whether it's Labour Party, whether it's NNPP, whether it's ABGA, whether it's PDP, cuts across. One of the senators, Ted Ningi, was talking about billions that he has been able to attract. You know, so I am saying that all put together, did it go through that normal process? If it didn't go through that normal process, well, a whistle has been blown, and we have situations in our hands that we need to really go back and stop this sleaze of the Nigerian
do you
state.
agree with those saying there should be further investigation or private investigation or something?
I agree absolutely. I mean, I said that Abdul Ningi needed to have gone through a particular process.
Instead of the suspension?
Instead of the suspension, whether it's suspension, whether it should go through the normal process, it should be proven beyond reasonable doubt, and not soon as that came out, you heard what Jarigbe said. And in your opener, you also said that some people are still talking about, when you begin to act as if you are in a coven, you know, what one of my very good friends, Festus Saritayo and Tunde Keladi, call Egbe Akpakni, that's a Yoruba word that says we belong to a coven where we just squatter and share things and others should not be able to say it. A day will come, a morrow will come, that one of them, either because of political consideration, either because he or she is just not satisfied about the sharing formula, will blow a whistle. And what does that do? Brings down the House of the Senate. The President of the Senate made a statement, and I think I agree with him absolutely. The Senate, the 10th Senate, cannot be the same again in terms of how it has been dragged seriously down. And leadership tells me that it's not a matter of now pointing fingers. If you didn't go through that normal process, and I think you didn't allow Ningi to try and prove beyond reasonable doubt.
Okay.
I think it might have been a bit hasty to be able to prove to everybody that, like Caesar's wife, you are above board. But when you have skeletons in your cupboard, when you have more than skeletons in your cupboard, what happens is that you might want to be in a hurry. So all put together, the pot calling the kettle black. Both of them are black at the end of the day. And
let's talk about
who will be the one that will suffer for it, the Nigerian state. Okay,
let's talk about what impact this suspension will have on the role of Nengi's role in the National Assembly and as well his political career.
Okay, there are two ways to look at it from the sociological aspect. If you call a man a thief and you have not been able to prove that he's a thief, you turn him into a cult hero if you are not careful. And if you also call a man a thief and you are not able to prove that he has stolen anything from you per se, and that the balance of probability is that it might be, it might not be, the perception of the public is already risen against you. Thirdly, the governor of his home state has clearly come out to say that as far as he was concerned, Ningi was right, and that they were going to do everything possible to just make sure that he's given a safe landing back in. My final will be to say that an implication will be for the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, under whose watch this is happening. Yes, I know about separation of powers, to wield in very, very strongly with his persuasive powers to make sure that this Senate as dirty as it is appearing, can be made to reinvent itself, first by this president himself reinventing the presidency, and then we all just stay backwards and say, look, this jambalaya of the confusion that we have is not good for us. It's going to have implications into attracting foreign investment, and the people are hungry, the people are angry, terrorists are asking for monies because they feel that in that COVID of witches and wizards, people are there sharing money, not looking very good for Nigeria at this time.
All right, thank you very much. I wanted to even ask the lessons that we can take from this incident to improve future budget processes, but we are due for break right now, and Newsweek continues in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's still Newsweek, where we highlight bigger stories that made the headlines recently. Insecurity was on the front burner this week as Kaduna-based Muslim cleric Sheik Gumi on Tuesday sought the government permission to approach and have talks with bandits who abducted about 287 school children from Kuriga Government Secondary School and LEA primary schools in the Chinku local government area of the state. The Islamic cleric insisted that dialogue was the way to go, calling on President Tinubu to take a different approach from his predecessors, Mohammed Buhari, who rejected the dialogue. I have joining me to discuss this, Chidi Omeje, editor, Security Digestive, via Zoom. Good evening, Mr. Omeje.
Good morning, good evening, and thanks for having me. It's actually Security Digest.
All right. Critics have actually argued that dialogue with bandits may condone their actions or grant them impunity. Where has negotiation worked effectively in similar situation, Mr. Omeje?
It's not a best practice to actually dialogue with terrorists or bandits, those who hold the state captive. It's not the ideal thing, but we always say that it's best not to allow it to happen in the first place, because the moment they're able to carry out their actions, you will put in a very awkward situation. You put in a very awkward position that at the end of the day you may have no option than to even negotiate, because you have in their hands probably children or women or your citizens, and you ultimately would like to have those people released, and you at the end of the day you don't have options as a matter of fact. So I'm trying to say that it's not always the best thing to dialogue or even to pay ransom, because in so doing you are more or less motivating them, more or less fortifying them, arming them to carry more such attacks in the future. So the best thing is to make sure that we don't create a situation where they are able to carry out their threats or able to carry out their crime. So, you asked the question whether the present government should toe the line of the previous government. I do not know exactly what the previous government stood for. I don't remember them as a government that gloried inaction. So I don't know where to place them, because you can't say they negotiated or they didn't negotiate. They just allow things to get awry. So I am advising this present government to make sure that they don't allow this kind of situation to happen in the first place, because the moment it happens, they will put in a very awkward situation. It is not conventional to negotiate and even pay ransom to terrorists, but at the same time, you have the obligation to release the abductees, the victims in their captivity. So that is like a catch-22 situation, as far as I'm concerned. That's my initial response.
All right, while we hope and pray for the release of these children, let's talk about the safety protocols that should be implemented in schools and other vulnerable areas to prevent attacks by this bandit. Mr. Omeje.
Yeah, you know, when the Chibok thing happened, and that was actually the first time this mass abduction was happening in Nigeria. When it happened in 2014, after the initial shock, there was a global response to it. And that was when, they said they were going to put in place what they call Safe School Initiative. And of course, Nigeria adopted it. Nigeria, keyed into it. And I think we made some commitment, almost about $10 million to set off the program, to actualize the initiative. The initiative was to secure, the schools, put down some physical structures, probably like walls and, wire barbings and stuff, and probably able to put boots on ground to watch over our school system. And then, of course, I think the civil defense, it was who we are, meant to carry out that, to deepen that process. And as far as you and I know, that initiative has been a failure, or rather, it has been ineffective, because since that 2014, we've had mass attack in Dapchi, we have in Kagara, we have in Kankara, we have in, of course, we now have this one in Kuntiga, or whatever they describe it, and it keeps happening. So it means that the initiative is not working. The initiative needs to be reappraised. Okay. The government needs to think out beyond that particular initiative to find out what we can do within our own milieu here to save the situation.
All right, Akin, let me bring you in here. Considering the fact that these bandits are demanding ransom with deadline, how do you think we can achieve or improve a peaceful resolution, or get a peaceful resolution to get rid of this crisis?
Jacinta, it comes a time when you speak to elders, or they say, an elder will always tell you predictable outcomes. What we are attempting here, what Nigeria has been attempting, are just cosmetics. You're not getting to the roots of the problem. The root of the problem is that Nigeria has become ungovernable. Nigeria, over the years, has planted tares, T-A-R-E-S, and they cannot, and we cannot collectively be thinking of how to harbor mangoes. Things have gone so bad that we begin to now ask ourselves, like the Nebuchadnezzar wall, this wall has fallen. Let's accept the wall has fallen, and then begin a process of wanting to rebuild. First, that needs to happen in terms of the protocol. And Jacinta, I wonder if you saw the images at Kajuru, where these pupils.
It's a scary one.
No roofs, no touch. So who is fooling who? What kind of education are we even talking about there? So we don't even have what I can call functional education to help us. That's the first one. Second, is the fact that even in areas that are having semblance of life, one of the protocols that should happen is you do what you call PAERO. PAERO is public affairs response system, emergency response. That if this happens, this is what you should do. This is the whistle. Situations where those things are not on, I tell you, it tells you that a lot.
I know you have.
And finally,
I know you have a lot to say, but we are almost out of time. We need to go to our final
emergency story. In our security, in our economy, in our educational system. It's just not working. We need, like Nebuchadnezzar, to now start the process of trying to build and rebuild again. Good governance will be a very good cure at all levels. At all levels, good governance.
All right, thank you very much. Let's move to our final story for tonight. The Northern Governors Forum said it has agreed with service chiefs to adopt new methods to address the recent spate of kidnappings in the region. Chairman of the forum and Governor of Gombe State, Inouye Yahaya, made this known to journalists after the closed-door meeting on Thursday in Abuja. Mr. Yahaya said the meeting attended by the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Rabudu, and service chiefs reviewed the security situation and agreed to adopt alternative options to tackle it. The governor said the alternative options would be different from what they had been doing before. He said the governors were disposed to supporting both military and non-military options to address the security challenges. I still have with me to discuss this, JD Umeje. JD, let me come to you. You know, many Nigerians have actually sought, or I beg your pardon, alternative approaches beyond the familiar kinetic and non-kinetic options. What is your perspective on these strategies?
Look, the common denominator here in all of this is governance. Good governance or bad governance. And you agree with me that, you know, bad governance has been our identity for a long time. So it is bad governance that, you know, give rise to, you know, poverty. It's poverty that give rise to, you know, irritability in the people, and, you know, and the fact that some people who are now despondent, you know, are susceptible to joining crimes and criminality. So you see, kinetic efforts is just like dealing with the symptoms. You need to first of all, you know, deal with the root causes before, if you are really serious about solving the problem. If you don't deal with the root causes, you just be treating the outward, you know, symptoms. The military, for instance, are not actually trained, you know, to deal with stuff like this. So we have to understand this. If we create a situation where we rely on the military for everything, every security challenges we have, you definitely will find a period when you will get to a stage where we are right now. So where we are now is for us to re-strategize, to think back. We need some level of introspection in our governance, you know, structure to see, are we really on the right path? You know, is our criminal justice system effective? Is our, you know, wealth sharing formula effective? Our resources deployment effective? Are we, you know, on the right track in terms of how we relate to our citizens? So these things are the things that give rise to this level. So you see, when we talk about kinetic or not kinetic stuff, you know, we're just dealing with the symptoms. I am looking at the root cause of all this problem we're having now, which is, you know, bad governance. Bad governance is the key to it. Corruption, bad governance, and ineptitude in our leaders. These are the issues we have to be dealing with.
You're almost out of time. Thank you very much for your contribution. Let me come to you. What is this prospect or potential outcome of these options, this new alternative? What do you think we can get out of it to solve this issue of insecurity? Briefly, sir, because
yes, Jacinta,
we are almost out of time.
I would tell you, I am not expecting much.
Wow.
And it has always been the same trajectory. There are a few low hangers. It will not cost you money. It will not cost you resources. If you can just adopt them, that is character, and that is living by examples. The northern governors have gathered themselves together, went to the battle. What should they be doing differently? The spate of security votes that they have, please make it open. Let's begin the situation of not like the legislators, some people call them legislators. Be very, very, very open. This is what I have, this is how we should go. One. Secondly, let's go back to the grassroots. Government, both at the state and at the federal, will not come down and resolve all these problems for you. You have to come back, the emirs, the ulamas, the teachers, the non-state actors who are putting themselves as being the people that can help and begin negotiation. We are seeing this more or less like a business. So let them come back.
Do you agree with the APC, the chairman of APC Forum, or I'm trying to remember the name, but I don't know if you agree with them when they say the president should sack non-performing service chiefs, looking at how we don't even have enough personnel.
So sack non-performing chiefs, bring some other ones in, and then what happened? The same of same. Did that not happen during Buhari's time? Did that not happen during Jonathan's time? I am saying that if you keep on marching on a marshy land, the only thing that will happen to you is sink, and Nigeria is sinking. We should now begin a process. The emirs, the local governments that come once a while, share money, and then disappear into some other kind of COVID. we need to put ourselves together. And then, at the umbrella overall level, we need to begin to ask ourselves those basic questions. You know, Dawn Commission, that's the development agenda for Southwest. Remember, and that reminds me of the late Arakunri Akeredolu. When this was on, and he was saying he was going to do the Amoteku, his counterparts in the north. So there is some element of learning from there. Can we now then open ourselves up and then begin to see our areas of comparative advantage and begin to do what needs to be done?
We need to go.
Pure and simple.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Thank you very much for your contributions. I've been speaking with Akin Fatuke, CEO, chronicler and associate mediator communication consultant. And I also had Chidi Omeje, editor, Security Digest via Zoom. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your contributions so far.
Thank you so much, Jacinta.
And as well, thank you for being part of the show. Remember, you can follow the conversation on our social media platforms at TVC News NG on our website at tvcnews.tv. I am Jacinta Agochukwu. Until next week, it's goodbye.